When a person says, Ya Allah, I am tired, it is rarely just about the body being exhausted from work or daily routine. Most of the time it carries a deeper meaning that cannot be explained easily in words. It is the weight of emotions that have been carried silently for a long time. It is the pressure of thoughts that never stop. It is the pain of expectations, disappointments, loneliness and battles that no one else fully sees or understands. A person reaches a point where even waking up feels heavy, where smiling feels forced, and where continuing feels like a task greater than their strength. This kind of exhaustion is not visible on the outside, but it lives deeply inside the heart and mind, slowly draining the energy of a person. Sometimes this feeling comes after repeated struggles that seem to have no end. One difficulty is followed by another, and just when a person thinks things will become easier, something new appears. It creates a sense of being stuck in a cycle where rest never truly feels like rest, and peace never stays for long. The heart begins to feel tired of trying, tired of hoping, tired of waiting for things to change. Even dua becomes filled with tears because words are no longer enough to express what is inside. This exhaustion is also connected to emotional pain that builds up quietly. A person may have gone through betrayal, loss, heartbreak, or disappointment from people they trusted. These experiences leave marks on the heart that do not heal quickly. Over time, the weight of these emotions becomes heavier than physical tiredness. The mind keeps replaying memories, asking questions with no answers, and searching for peace that feels far away. In this state, even small problems feel overwhelming because the inner strength feels weakened. Yet in this very moment of saying, Ya Allah, I am tired, there is something deeply powerful happening. It is the moment a person stops relying only on themselves and turns towards their Creator with honesty. It is a form of brokenness that opens the door to mercy. When all strength seems gone, that is when a person realizes they are not meant to carry everything alone. The human heart was never designed to hold endless pressure without turning back to the one who created it. This feeling of exhaustion also reveals how sensitive the human soul is. It shows that a person is not emotionless or unbreakable, but someone who feels deeply, cares deeply, and struggles deeply. Every tear, every silent prayer, every moment of sitting alone with thoughts is part of a journey that Allah already knows about. Nothing about this state is hidden from Him, even when a person cannot explain it properly to anyone else. Many times this tiredness becomes a silent dua. Even when the tongue is quiet, the heart is speaking. Even when words stop, the feeling reaches Allah in a way that no human conversation can fully capture. It is in these broken moments that a person begins to understand that exhaustion is not the end of their story. It is a sign that they are carrying more than what they were meant to carry alone. Slowly realizing that strength is not in pretending to be fine all the time, but in admitting weakness and standing in a state where only Allah understands the heaviness that exists inside. And the heart continues to feel that unseen burden that no one else notices while the world keeps moving and the person remains quietly exhausted inside. Turning to Allah in a state of weakness is one of the most powerful expressions of faith a human being can experience. In moments when a person feels completely exhausted, broken, or unable to continue, there is a natural instinct to search for support. Sometimes people look toward other people, hoping someone will understand, listen, or solve their problems. But often human support has limits. Not every pain can be understood by others, and not every burden can be lifted by anyone around you. This is where the true strength of faith begins to appear, when a person realizes that even in their weakest state, they can still call upon Allah without hesitation. When someone says, Ya Allah, in their lowest moment, it is not just a phrase. It is an admission of complete dependence. It means the person has reached a point where they recognize that they cannot carry everything on their own anymore. This is not defeat, but a form of surrender that brings peace to the heart. In the world, surrendering is often seen as weakness, but in spirituality, surrendering to Allah is the highest form of strength because it shows complete trust in His wisdom and mercy. In moments of weakness, a person becomes more honest with themselves and with their Creator. There is no need to pretend, no need to act strong, and no need to hide emo. And tears, the heart speaks directly without filters. Tears fall without explanation. and words come out in broken sentences or sometimes not at all. Even silence becomes a form of dua. This honesty is something that brings a person closer to Allah because there is no barrier between the servant and the Creator at that moment. Many times people feel ashamed of their weakness. They think that crying, breaking down, or feeling tired is a sign that they are not strong enough. But in reality, Allah created human beings with emotions and limits. Feeling weak is not a flaw. It is a reminder that a person needs help beyond their own capacity. When a person turns to Allah in that state, they are actually acknowledging the truth of their creation and the greatness of their Lord. There is also a deep comfort in knowing that Allah does not reject a broken heart. Unlike people who may become distant when someone is struggling too much, Allah's mercy is closest when a person is at their lowest. The more a person feels unable, the more they realize that Allah's help is always available. This creates a unique connection where weakness becomes a doorway to spiritual strength. In this state, a person may not immediately see solutions to their problems, but something changes within their heart. There is a shift from feeling completely alone to feeling that there is someone who understands everything, even the things that cannot be explained. This awareness itself becomes a source of calmness. The burden may still exist, but the heart no longer carries it in isolation. Turning to Allah in weakness also teaches patience in a deeper way. It is not just about waiting for problems to end, but about learning how to remain connected to Allah while going through the struggle. This connection slowly builds resilience that is not dependent on circumstances. Even if life does not change immediately, the heart begins to soften, accept, and trust the process more deeply. Hardships are not random events in the life of a believer. They are part of a divine system of growth, purification, and elevation that Allah has placed in this world. Every difficulty a person goes through carries a purpose, even if that purpose is not immediately visible. When life becomes heavy and problems seem endless, it is natural for a person to feel confused or overwhelmed. But in the eyes of faith, these moments are not signs of abandonment. Instead, they are signs that Allah is shaping the believer in ways that comfort alone could never achieve. A person may wonder why pain exists if Allah is merciful, but mercy does not always appear in the form of ease. Sometimes mercy comes disguised as struggle because struggle removes what ease cannot. It removes arrogance from the heart, it removes attachment to the temporary world, and it removes illusions of self-sufficiency. When a person is constantly comfortable, they may forget their dependence on Allah. But when difficulty enters their life, it brings them back to remembrance, humility, and sincerity. Hardships also serve as a form of purification. Just like gold is refined through fire, a believer's character is refined through trials. The process is not easy, and at times it feels painful, but it slowly removes inner impurities such as impatience, anger, pride, and despair. Through repeated tests, a person begins to understand themselves more deeply. They realize their weaknesses, their triggers, and their emotional limits. This awareness is not meant to break them, but to rebuild them on stronger foundations. Every believer is tested in different ways, because every soul has different strengths and areas that need growth. Some people are tested through loss, some through relationships, some through financial struggles, and some through emotional battles that no one else can see. The form of the test may differ, but the purpose remains the same: to bring the servant closer to Allah. When a person begins to see their hardships from this perspective, the pain does not disappear immediately, but its meaning changes. There is also wisdom in timing. A hardship comes when a person is ready to grow, even if they do not feel ready. From a human perspective, it often feels like the wrong timing, but from a divine perspective, it is precisely the moment needed for transformation. If everything were easy all the time, the depth of faith would never develop. It is through struggle that a person learns reliance, patience, and sincerity in their connection with Allah. Hardships also create space for reflection. In moments of difficulty, a person often pauses and reevaluates their life. They begin to think about their choices, their direction, and their relationship with Allah. This reflection is something that does not usually happen during ease and comfort. In this way, hardship becomes a wake-up call, pulling the heart away from distractions and back toward what truly matters. Even though difficulties may feel heavy, they are never meaningless in the plan of Allah. Every tear, every sleepless night, every silent prayer carries weight in a way that is known only to Him. What feels like a burden today may become the reason for strength, wisdom, and elevation tomorrow. The believer may not understand the full picture while going through the trial, but the wisdom behind it is already written. Even in the moments when everything feels uncertain and the heart struggles to find peace amidst the pressure of what it cannot yet comprehend, no soul is ever burdened beyond what it can bear, even if in the moment it feels completely overwhelming. This truth is often forgotten when a person is standing in the middle of hardship, because pain has a way of making everything feel larger than life. When emotions are heavy and problems seem endless, the mind starts believing that it is impossible to continue. But in reality, Allah, in His infinite wisdom and mercy, never places a test on a person that exceeds their eye. In your capacity, every challenge is measured, every difficulty is calculated, and every burden is shaped according to what the soul is capable of handling, even if that capacity is not yet visible to the person going through it. Human beings often underestimate their own strength. They assume that because they feel weak in a moment, they are weak overall. But strength is not always visible at the beginning of a trial. Sometimes it develops during the trial itself. A person may not know how they will survive a situation, yet they continue to move forward day by day, even when they feel like stopping. That continuation, even in broken form, is proof that they are stronger than they realize. What feels like a breaking point is often actually a turning point where inner strength begins to surface. There are moments in life when a person looks at their situation and feels completely trapped, as if there is no way forward and no way back. In those moments, it is easy to believe that the burden is too much. But Allah knows the exact limits of every heart. He knows how much a person can endure emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Nothing enters a person's life randomly, even the timing of. Difficulties is part of divine wisdom. What arrives today is something the soul has the ability to face today, even if it requires patience, tears, and long nights of struggle. Often the human mind focuses only on the present pain and forgets past moments of survival. Many times a person has already passed through situations they once thought they would never survive. At that time, they may have believed it was impossible, yet they lived through it and moved forward. This is a reminder that inner strength reveals itself gradually through experience. Every hardship survived becomes evidence that the soul is capable of more than it previously believed. The feeling of being overwhelmed is real, but it does not define the limit of a person's strength. It is an emotional response, not a permanent truth. Emotions can fluctuate, rise and fall, but the divine capacity placed within a human being remains steady. Even when a person feels like they are at their lowest, they can still find a way to get back up and try again. There is still a hidden strength inside them that allows them to breathe, to continue, and to endure another moment. This truth also brings a sense of responsibility and hope. Responsibility because it reminds a person that they are not allowed to give up on themselves, and hope because it assures them that what they are facing is not beyond recovery or endurance. Every tear shed in difficulty carries meaning, and every moment of patience carries unseen reward. The burden may feel heavy, but it is never without purpose, and it is never beyond what the heart was created to eventually carry and grow through. Even when the path feels uncertain and the weight of life presses down from every direction without clear answers or immediate relief, Dua becomes the most powerful form of relief when a person reaches a state of exhaustion that cannot be explained to anyone else. There are moments in life when words spoken to people feel incomplete, misunderstood, or even unnecessary, because the depth of what is inside cannot be translated properly into conversation. In such moments, the heart naturally turns toward Allah, not out of habit only, but out of need, because there is a recognition that only the one who created the heart can fully understand its condition. When a person is tired emotionally and mentally, they often carry a silent heaviness that grows stronger in isolation. They may smile in front, of others, continue responsibilities and act normal in daily life. But internally there is a constant struggle. Thoughts do not settle, emotions do not calm, and the mind keeps revisiting worries, regrets, or fears. This eternal noise makes it difficult to find peace anywhere in the world, and slowly the person realizes that external solutions are not enough. At this point, dua becomes not just a ritual but a form of release. Raising hands in dua while feeling broken is one of the purest states of human vulnerability. There is no need for perfect words or structured sentences. Even silence in front of Allah carries meaning. A tear that falls during dua can express what years of speech could not. This is because dua is not about convincing Allah, but about expressing the truth of one's condition. When a person says nothing but their heart is speaking, that is also understood completely. The connection in that moment is direct, without barriers, without judgment, and without misunderstanding. Many times a person feels that their problems are too complex or too heavy to be solved. They may feel that their situation has no clear path forward. But in dua, the burden is no longer carried alone. It is placed in the hands of the one who is Arabic Kaf, Arabic Alif, Arabic Dal, Arabic Ra over everything. This act of transferring emotional weight brings a subtle shift inside the heart. Even if the external situation remains the same, the internal experience begins to change. The feeling of isolation slowly weakens, and a sense of being heard begins to enter the heart. There is also something deeply healing in the act of repeating dua consistently. When a person continues to ask Allah repeatedly, even without seeing immediate change, it creates a connection of reliance. It removes the illusion that control is in human hands alone. Over time, this repetition softens the heart, making it more patient and more accepting of what is beyond its control. The act of turning back again and again becomes a form of spiritual endurance that strengthens faith in ways that comfort alone cannot provide. Dua also becomes a space where hidden emotions finally find expression. Feelings that were suppressed for long periods begin to surface. Pain that was ignored or delayed finally gets acknowledged in front of Allah. This acknowledgement itself brings relief, because internal pressure often increases when emotions are deep. In dua, there is permission to be fully honest, to admit weakness, confusion, fear, and sadness without needing to justify them. In moments of exhaustion, a person may not always feel immediate peace after dua, but something subtle begins to shift in perception. The heart begins to trust, even when understanding is missing. The mind begins to soften, even when answers are not visible. There is a gradual transition from carrying everything alone to slowly recognizing that the weight is being shared in a way that is unseen but deeply real. While the lips continue to move in quiet conversation with Allah, asking again and again without needing certainty of outcome, only the presence of hope that continues to remain alive within the heart that is still speaking in brokenness. After every hardship, there comes a moment of ease, even if it does not arrive at the time a person expects or in the form they imagine. Life is built on cycles of difficulty and relief, pressure and release, sadness and comfort. When a person is going through pain, it often feels like the state they are in will last forever. The mind becomes trapped in the present moment, and it becomes difficult to imagine a future where things feel lighter again. But ease is not absent, it is simply delayed according to divine wisdom, and it arrives when the heart has been shaped enough to receive it properly. Hardship has a way of narrowing a person's vision. In the middle of struggle, everything appears dark, and it feels as if no direction exists beyond the current pain. However, this limited vision is part of the human experience, not the final reality. Just because relief is not visible does not mean it is not approaching. Just because answers are not clear does not mean they do not exist. Allah's plan always includes a transition from difficulty to ease, but the timing of that transition is not always aligned with human impatience. Ease does not always come as a complete removal of problems. Sometimes it comes as strength in the heart, allowing a person to carry what once felt unbearable. Sometimes it comes as acceptance, where the mind stops resisting reality and begins to find peace within it. At other times, it comes as a change in circumstances that gradually reduces the weight of struggle. The form may differ, but the essence remains the same. A shift from heaviness to relief, from cold, infusion to clarity, from despair to hope. One of the most important lessons hidden within hardship is patience. Patience is not passive waiting, it is active endurance with trust. It is the ability to remain steady even when outcomes are unknown. During difficult times, patience becomes a form of worship that strengthens the connection between a servant and their creator. Each moment of restraint, Each silent prayer, each decision to continue, despite pain, becomes part of a process that prepares the heart for ease. There are also moments in life where ease begins quietly before it becomes obvious. A person may not immediately recognize that their situation is improving because they are still emotionally connected to their past pain. But slowly, without noticing, the intensity of suffering begins to reduce. Thoughts become slightly lighter, the heart becomes less heavy, and the mind begins to rest more often. These subtle changes are signs that ease has already started entering the life of a person, even if they are still focused on what has not yet changed. It is also important to understand that hardship is not meant to last forever. Its purpose is temporary, even if it feels peak. Remaining in the moment, the human experience of pain often distorts the sense of time, making difficult phases feel longer than they actually are. But just as night always turns into day, and winter always gives way to spring, hardship naturally transitions into ease, according to a system that is beyond human control, but perfectly balanced in its design. Even in the deepest moments of struggle, the promise of ease remains present. It is not a distant hope, it is a certainty written into the structure of life itself. A person may not see it immediately, but every passing moment is moving them closer to it. The journey through difficulty is not without destination, and every tear, every silent struggle, and every patient endurance carries within it the seed of eventual relief that unfolds in its own time, bringing quiet comfort to a heart that once felt overwhelmed and slowly learns to breathe again in ways that were once forgotten in the weight of what it carried.